Who's actually going to get the most out of this Fender Jaguar? Who should walk away? And does the price make sense for someone who just wants a solid workhorse for gigging or home jamming? That's the question on a lot of forums when a new American professional model drops, because the line sits between the entry-level player's budget and the boutique collector's wallet. Link is in the description if you want to check the product details on Amazon, and I'm going to walk through why that matters before you hand over a few $100. First off, the biggest hesitation I hear from buyers is the classic, "Is this the right Jaguar for my style?" The Jaguar has a reputation for surf rock sparkle, but over the years it's been adopted by indie, punk, and even metal players who love its offset body and bright single-coil voice. The American professional version tries to be a middle ground, an older body that's a bit heavier than the lightweight 60s originals, a Rosewood fingerboard that feels smoother under the hand, and a floating tremolo that's meant to stay in tune even when you dive bomb. If you've been stuck on a cheap, budget jugger that slides out of tune after a few bends, you'll notice the difference right away. If you're just looking for a cheap lookalike to put on a stage, you might be better off with a lower-priced Squire. The extra cost here goes to refinements that only serious players usually appreciate. Let's talk about daily usability. I tried the guitar for a week straight, alternating between clean arpeggios on a Strat-style amp and high-gain distortion on a modern metal rig. The two single-coil pickups deliver a clear, articulate tone that cuts through the mix when you're playing jangly chords, but they also retain enough bite to sit nicely under heavy gain. The key practical strength is the pickup switching. You get a neck and bridge single coil, plus a middle position that blends them, giving you a surprisingly versatile palette without any extra electronics. In a live setting, that means you can jump from a surfy rhythm to a gritty lead with just a flick of the selector, which saves time and reduces the chance of a bad tone change mid-song. The floating tremolo is another real-world win, but it comes with a hidden trade-off. Because the Jaguar's bridge sits on a relatively thin plate of Alder, you need to set the springs correctly and keep the string tension in the sweet spot. In my experience, if you're a player who swaps strings daily and isn't comfortable adjusting tremolo springs, the bridge can start to feel a little loose after a few weeks of heavy use. That's not a defect, it's just an extra maintenance step that some gigging musicians consider a nuisance. For players who love dive bombs and subtle vibrato, the effort pays off, but if you only need a solid, static bridge, a hardtail might be less hassle. Now, who should actually buy this? If you're a gigging musician who needs a reliable, road-ready instrument that can handle a range of genres, clean indie, surf, alternative, even light metal, the American professional classic Jaguar is built for that versatility. The maple neck is thin enough to accommodate fast chord changes, yet sturdy enough to stay stable under heavy string gauges. The Rosewood fingerboard adds a warm feel that many players prefer over the typical maple tops you see on cheaper models. In addition, the finish of faded Sherwood green metallic is not just a pretty coat, it's a durable polyester that resists the scuffs you pick up on tour buses and rehearsal rooms. On the flip side, if you're a beginner who is still figuring out which pickup configuration you like, or a player who only ever sticks to one tone and never uses a tremolo, the extra cost might feel unjustified. A beginner could get a decent sound from a Squire Classic Vibe, or even an entry-level Fender Player Series, and they'll spend less on a guitar that's easier to maintain. Also, if you're a metal purist who relies on high-output humbuckers for tight low-end response, the Jaguar's single-coil setup might leave you reaching for the pedal board more often than you'd like. In those cases, a Strat-style or Tele-style with a humbucker set would align better with your needs. Practical weaknesses are subtle but worth noting. The offset body, while iconic, can feel a bit unwieldy when you're sitting on a standard chair for long practice sessions. The balance shifts toward the heel, which may cause fatigue if you're not used to the shape. The weight of the older body is also on the heavier side for a Jaguar, so for those who have to carry a case up several flights of stairs, it adds a few pounds you'll notice. Another point, the two single-coil pickups lack the hot output that some modern players expect. They sound fantastic clean and mildly overdriven, but when you crank a high-gain amp to the max, you might find the signal a little thin compared to a humbucker-laden axe. That's not a flaw in the guitar itself, just a reminder that the instruments